Good evening everyone and welcome to Richmond Valley Council's Ordinary Council meeting Tuesday the 8th of August 2026. I'll open the meeting with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Budjalug Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing culture, connections to lands, their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr. General Manager, could you read the prayer, please?
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Amen. Item 3 on our agenda is public access and question time, and I believe we have 2 requests for public access tonight. The first being Mr. Daniel Simpson's from Woodburn Action Group in relation to item 14.2, Resilient Homes Program Update. Would you like to come forward, Mr. Simpson, please? Welcome, Daniel, and I'm sure you're quite aware of the rules that are in place for our public access. So when you're ready, start. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors and staff. I'm here this evening representing the Woodburn Action Group. The Woodburn Action Group is a subcommittee of the Woodburn Chamber of Commerce, which was set up specifically to advocate for policy change around the Resilient Homes program and the buybacks that have happened in Woodburn, and are having a significant impact on the social fabric of the town of Woodburn. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that the Resilient Homes program was a much needed policy response, but it's very broad in nature and it fails to consider the impact on unique individual towns like Woodburn. In Woodburn, there have been approximately 30 homes bought back. As things stand, that's 30 homes removed from our community, never to return. This represents 10% of all housing stock in Woodburn. This reduction in the core population of the town is having significant social implications, including the loss of social cohesion, significant drops in school enrolments, housing and rental scarcity, lack of available staff for businesses, drop in local business customer counts, and feelings of isolation, anxiety, lack of confidence in the future, leading to mental health problems. The Resilient Home program seeks to reduce the risk to life by removing residential housing in the highest flood risk areas. But it is, and that's hard for us to argue against, certainly understand that. But it has also completed a large number of buybacks in the order of 10 to 15 that have been based on exceptional circumstances. That is, houses that are not necessarily in the highest flood risk, but their proponents were elderly, frail, suffering from mental health and the like, and therefore had their homes bought back on the basis of an exceptional circumstance. Now, whilst we don't necessarily agree with buybacks in Woodburn at all, we'd much prefer the other measures such as house raising and retrofitting. The Woodburn Action Group has accepted that the chance of changing the policy around the highest flood risk is very unlikely. And so we're turning our response to those houses that have been bought back in the exceptional circumstances. What that means is that there are houses scattered around the town that are never to be built on again, that are just going back to be vacant blocks of land with houses on either side of them being lived in, potentially that council just has to maintain into the future. WAG is seeking council's support, so WAG, Woodburn Action Group, is seeking council support by asking you to support the recommendation tonight to write to the relevant government MPs and ministers seeking that buybacks that were completed under exceptional circumstances are removed from the Resilient Homes program so that their land use can once again become residential housing. My understanding is that if these properties remain within the Resilient Homes program, that they will be slated never to be built on again. It's certainly never to be residentially built on again. So we're seeking that those houses are removed from the program so that their land can be classified for residential dwellings in the future. Woodburn is a unique village. It does not have readily available residential land in other locations, and it requires a unique response. So I'd urge councillors to support the recommendation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you take questions if there's any?
Absolutely.
Has any councillor got a question? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, in our report, it mentions that on 8th of July, Richmond Valley Council and the Woodburn Action Group requested jointly the RA temporary pause progressing. How was that request made, and have you had an answer?
So the request was made by a joint letter from Richmond Valley Council and the Woodburn Action Group to RA. They have been quite good in communicating with us. A pause is not actually in place. However, they are pushing those homes to the back of the program. So whilst they basically said no, they're not actually going to officially pause it, but they are deferring those homes for as long as they can at the moment.
Answer your question. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation and have a safe trip home.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Our second speaker for the evening is Mr Michael Lord, Principal of Woodburn Public School and member of the Woodburn Action Group in relation to item 14.2 Resilient Homes Program Update. Please come forward when you're ready. Welcome, Michael, and there is a time limit, but you'll get notified when you're ready, start. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors and staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I stand before you as both the Principal of Woodburn Public School and a concerned member of the Woodburn Action Group. I come not only as a leader in our school, but someone who cares deeply about the families and children and the future of our community. I am speaking about the Resilient Home buyback scheme, and particularly around the exceptional circumstances that some of the homes have been purchased under. The impacts that socially that creates in our town, I think, is something that really needs to be heard and followed up on, because it's not simply just following a scheme of a flood response. The impact, and I do believe it's an unintended impact, is the social implications for our families. I see it in school since the floods. I see it as a continual pressure on our town. For us as a school, we do see families struggling with rentals. We see them struggling with having to move out of homes that have been bought back. And the idea that we are creating a safer town is something that we all support. There's no two ways about that. We want a safe town for our families to grow up in and thrive in. But yes, we are looking at the lasting social impacts on a scheme that's also included exceptional circumstances where a home may support someone in the here and now, but the lasting impacts in that can never be built on again, impacting future families and the success of future lives, is something that we believe in the Woodburn Action Group as something to look into for council, and taking that to the right people to assess. So for me, Dan touched on a lot of that. For me, I guess it's the heart of the town. I talk about children. I work with children every day. It's the greatest job there is. And I do see, that social impact firsthand. And I wanted to talk about the power of hope that this creates. If we are able to support our town to be as full as it can be while remaining safe, then we're seeing a town that goes from despair to challenge, that's gone through a lot, to something to celebrate and something to hope for. And I want that to be a really key component to the why of looking into the exceptional circumstances is the heart of a community. It's not just a building, they're not just homes that are boarded up and moved away. These are homes and they're potentially future homes for our kids to grow up in. The flow-on effect of that, Dan touched on that as well, business, sporting and schooling. It's impacted us as a school, including the impacts, and I can't speak personally to St Joseph's School, but I know the stats are that they are lost enrolments like we have, and collectively 23% of our enrolments across both schools as a town is quite impactful. So that's staffing, that's funding, that is the future of the programs we can provide children. There's quite a big impact on when we lose homes in that percentage. Dan spoke to the uniqueness of our town and the way in which the program had, I believe, designed to support us, but the unintended consequences with this part is that it meant quite a few homes, percentage-wise, has created a really big impact for us. So, the hope and the intention and support that we would like from councillors to allow, advocate for us, the use of that exceptional circumstances land, the properties to be back into circulation, to be able to be built for future homes and support that hope that the town would love to have. And I truly do believe that that would be a joyous celebration in the town. And I know from my perspective, in my role, it would be great to talk to my staff and my families about that hope that would come our way. So thank you for listening, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you for your presentation. Would you take questions if there are any?
Yeah, absolutely.
Has any council got any questions? I was going to ask about the impact on the schooling as your principal, but I think you covered that off pretty well, so thank you very much, and you have a safe trip home, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, that brings us to item 4, apologies and applications, leave of absence or attendance by audio-visual link. Mr General Manager, I believe we have one apology from Councillor Murray, is that correct?
Yes, we have an apology from Councillor Murray, who is unwell.
Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor
Move this, Mayor.
Morrissey, and a seconder? Councillor Humphries.
Second.
I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Mayoral minutes says nil. I'd also like to mention, before I move on to that, that tonight we have Mrs Martin joining us as Acting Director. Welcome, Mrs Martin. There is nil mayoral minutes, but I'd like to mention last Friday I attended the funeral of John Carroll, a former alderman of Casino Municipal Council of 16 years and also a deputy mayor for a couple of terms, who passed away at the age of 98. So rest in peace, John. Page 6, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 21st of July 2026. Can I get a mover, please, for the accuracy? Councillor Humphries, seconder.
Yeah, I'll second.
Councillor Hayes. Does everyone agree with the accuracy of those minutes? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7, matters arising out of the minutes. Has any councillor got any matters they'd like to raise?
Yeah,
Councillor Hayes.
Just one, on page 13 of the attachments. Where we item 16.2. I moved that at the meeting, at the last meeting. I'm just going to ask, when we get DCP changes and recommendations for changes, can we get the actual written words that are going to go in the DCP at the time of the meeting so that we get a bit more information, so we don't misunderstand them?
Certainly don't want you to misunderstand things. So we didn't provide a copy of the proposed draft DCP?
The text that's going to go in the DCP, yeah.
Okay. Was there, that's what I
I
thought.
think it was the one that was a symbol to a symbol to.
Sorry, I'll just let our Director of Planning comment.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that, raising that point, Councillor Hayes. That, I assume from your comment, it was in relation to that particular control that changed from a symbol into wording. And if not the case, I believe the rest of the document was actually part of the reporting attached to the report. But we can also review that process separately outside of this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection was I would have thought the draft DCP was provided, but I'm happy to correct it. I can go back to the business paper, but obviously we want to ensure that you know, what you are adopting is what you understand. So if there's something we can do to address that, and obviously I know DCPs and planning matters.
There was a link. There was a link.
There was a link to it,
there
was
a
there?
link, yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's something, yeah, if we need to provide that as hard copies, absolutely we need to do that so that you can go through it in detail. So we'll make sure we do that in future. Thanks.
Any other matters arising? No, we'll move on then. Declarations of interest. Has any councillor got a declaration of interest? Mr General Manager, you've received any?
No, I haven't received any.
Thank you. Petitions nil, and there's no notice of motion. We'll go over to page 8. I'd like to move the recommendation, but it's a new one. Quite simple. That council receives and notes the mayoral attendance report for the period of 14th July to 18th of August 2026, with the added attendance on the 24th of July casino suspension bridge light up. I'll move that. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey, thank you. Councillors, the reason I wanted that included is because I'd just like to speak on that light up. It was a late added event, but I'm so pleased it was. It was very, very well attended by a large section of our community. It was a cold night, but the people still come out to enjoy a small get-together. But some information was supplied to me a couple of weeks before that, just after the opening of the bridge, and it's about the suspension bridge, and I think it's worth a read. Over the years, there's been many calls for another suspension bridge or a higher bridge, and this goes back to the old Casino Council days, and I'll tell you the date of it in a minute. But casinos, this is from Trove, and it's an article in a paper of the Casino and Kyogle Courier and North Coast Advertiser. Casino suspension bridge. Major Cork town clerk, who has been working on his own account at an idea for a suspension bridge across the Richmond at Richmond Street or Berkshire Street to give easy access to Carrington Park, now known as Queen Elizabeth Park, has advanced another step with his scheme. He has requested an engineer in Sydney to furnish him with plans and suggestions based on data collected, and hopes to have a definite scheme in the near future to place before the council. Such a bridge, Major Cork believes, would open up a large new residential area in South Casino and would cause a rapid and beneficial suburban development. He points out that in Tasmania, the maintenance and capital cost of each such bridges, he has observed, are provided for partially by toll, which is collected automatically without attendance by a slot machine. So that was in 5th of January 1924. So this suspension bridge has been around a long time, but I'm very pleased that this council was the council to deliver it. And Richie Williamson, being a former mayor, he made the comment that night that who says that local government doesn't work fast? So is there any other items councillors like to raise?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Obviously, just on that suspension bridge, I'm not sure it's the appropriate time, but it's a wonderful project and I think we all have very positive views about it. But I was slightly disappointed that the lighting didn't actually light the high arches of the bridge and make it a real standout attraction. And I understand that's a cost matter, but I would hope that we would keep it in mind, that we would continue to look for ways to light that bridge, because I think the suspension bridge that's lit to the top of the highest points would really stand out and be a further acquisition. And I also, Mr. Mayor, I had meant to bring it as a notice of motion, believe that the bridge needs a name, and I think we should, as a council, consider naming the bridge in the future as well. And I'm happy to bring it forward as a notice of motion, or the general manager wants to take it on board, whether there's a community competition or the council wishes to take it. I think, the Irving Bridge is named. It's a great bridge, and I think it's a perfect monument for somebody or some past event or whatever to be named. So.
Okay, thank you. You take that on that. Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Morrissey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On the 3rd of August, Casino Buy Hub project update. Could you just give us a summary of
That was a meeting that General Manager I had with some representatives from the food co-op and some of their consultants, and it was just to see if there's any opportunities that they explained all about it, how it worked, and then if there's any opportunities that council or other local government areas may be able to come involved. So it's very early phase, but maybe the General Manager would like to comment on that further.
Yeah, look, it was an opportunity from the CEO, the food company we had discussed, and we've discussed biosolids projects for years, and they've now got one in place, and it was an opportunity to introduce the company that they're in partnership with, which is LMS Energy. So introduction so that we understand what they provide and we can consider their technologies and solutions. It will fit in nicely with the work that is being done as part of the Northern Rivers Joint Organisation. There's actually a report going to that meeting this Friday related to so we've updated the waste and infrastructure stock take, so across the region, which we led back in about 2019-20. So we've updated that. So that's a report that's going to the JO this Friday. So the aim is that report gets adopted, and then we move into an investigations phase, specifically around residual waste, but the report also encourages the JO to broaden the scope of that steering committee, which I chair, but involves the 7 councils across the region. So broaden the scope to be all waste challenges that we've got. And in the context of that, obviously the biosolids fits in with FOGO and reuse of biosolids that we generate at our sewage treatment plants and other facilities. So there'll be more to come, and once that the JO makes their decision, we will obviously communicate that to you all so you're aware of that piece of work, because waste's obviously a key challenge for us.
Thank you. And on the 4th of August, TAFE connects with Richmond Valley workshop.
That was a workshop held with not only Richmond Valley but businesses in the area and government agencies around the TAFE campus, and it was to get ideas of what TAFE requirements are needed in casino in our Richmond Valley over coming years. So it was just a workshop to get feedback to that. There's about, I'd say, 25 people attended.
Thank you.
Councillor Hayes.
The 6th of August, the CSIRO next steps discussion. I'm just wondering what come out of that meeting, who actually sat in on it, because I would have liked to, but I got the notice too late. I didn't see it till the meeting was over, basically. So, what was there minutes to that meeting or anything like any reports or anything to come out of it?
The minutes come out? I think there was. Yeah. Just Councillor Walker sat in on it, and the General Manager and I. We went down the lines of the resolution from the, June's last meeting from Council. I think that's on page 11 of the attachments. We just mainly pressed for the money that's been allocated, the 3 million for that study to go ahead. There was a few other councils had different views. One wanted it just to happen. The detention ponds, the other councils weren't in favour of it, or one wasn't. There was two other councils, Rouse County Council and Byron were invited to join in future discussions. So that'll be ongoing meetings as it progresses. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, so from that meeting there was a commitment to agree to, it's called a communique, so an information that sets out what was discussed at the meeting and what the next steps are. I don't think that's been finalised at this point. Once it is available, we'll obviously make it available to councillors, but the aim is that RA will distribute that publicly because obviously there's interest in those that meeting, that project obviously, and that steering group, which from memory the aim was that it meets on at least a monthly basis. So I can follow that up with RA tomorrow as to where that's up to, but I'd suggest it's imminent to get that released.
They did go the undertaking that they would spread the word what's happening, and that it wouldn't be a closed shop.
And sorry, just on the, we only picked up the opportunity that other councillors could be invited as observers. I think it was the evening before, so hence the late advice. So we will make sure that is clear up front. We didn't realise that was an opportunity, so we made sure we got that out to you. Councillor Walker was able to join as an observer. I think you were the only observer from all the councils, so I think we were the only one who actually passed on that opportunity that was provided by the CEO of RA. So we'll make sure that's clear for future meetings, and we give you as much notice as we can.
And actually that invitation went to myself, and I said to the General Manager, if you sent that out, he said, what are you talking about? So I had to send it to him, and then he had to send it out to the councillors. So, yeah. So. Any other questions? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. 12 delegates' reports. There's no delegates' reports. Matters determined without debate. Has any councillor got any matters they'd like to call?
Yeah, I'll call 14.2.
Councillor Cornish?
15.1.
Any other? Councillor Walker?
16.1, 17.1, 18.2. Please, Mr. Mayor.
I'll call 14.1. 15.1's gone. 15.2. And 16.1's gone. 14.2's gone. Okay. Mr. General Manager, I believe we need a recommendation for 17.2, 18.1, 18.3. Could I get a mover of that,
Yes,
please?
that's what I've got.
Councillor Morrissey, and a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Humphries. Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Councillors will go over the page to 14.1, delivery program Progress report, the recommendation, I need to change part 1. It says receives of January to July. That needs to read January to June. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Councillor, this is I believe, a positive report with 73 activities currently on schedule out of the 75. There's been some completion of some major projects that we all know about, and there was one other thing with the delivery of a lot of reporting, adoption of the Richmond Valley Disability Inclusion Plan, delivery of Fun in the Sun Festival at Evans Head, and so on, so on, so on. So I think it's been a very good 6 months. And I notice on page 13 we have ongoing support for local employment workforce development, with council employing 21 trainees, apprenticeships and cadets at the 30th of June 2026 as part of our commitment to developing our future leaders. So as I said, I'm very pleased with it, and I'll ask if anyone else would like to speak. Councillor Humphries.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. While I was reading the report, I remembered something that happened on the weekend, and one of our guests in the audience tonight goes to the Casino Lions Club farmers markets, and my husband and I were performing there on Saturday morning, and we were looking this way and where all the farmers markets people were, and Steve said to me, turn around and have a look at the park. There were people everywhere. There was probably 3 parties. There was a group of probably 25 young people, and when I say young, probably 19, 20, 21, and they were dancing and singing and just having a most brilliant time. So it is important that we, just thinking back for Michael and Daniel, it is important that we realise the uniqueness and the heart of our communities, and that was just something that was quite exceptional that I experienced over the weekend. And that comes in under creating great places to live in this report.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. 14.2, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, I'd like to just move the recommendation as written at this point, please.
Got a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillor Hayes.
Look, the report says it's all. It's we're nearly 5 years on since the floods, and we've been trying to get it across that Woodburn is unique in its situation, and the rollout of the Resilient Homes program has kind of it puts everything in limbo. There's no real answers, and I think the two that spoke tonight have relayed to us that, you know, Woodburn is unique, and we need to change the way it's heading. And look, this report goes a long way to doing that, setting it in motion. And like the Woodburn Action Group, you know, we needed a group to take it on. It's taken a long time to get to it, but I think it's the right way to go. We need to change what's happening in Woodburn for the sake of the town. The town, look, we live and we walk in that town, visit that town, you know, every second day of the week. I know I do, and a lot of people that live there. Just there's nothing happening positive. There's no positive moves. Even down to the Resilient Homes, where they're doing the resilience work on the homes, it's not happening. There's so many hurdles to get over just to get that done. The house lifts are sitting still. They're getting planning approvals, but they're not going ahead because the cost of them is just outrageous at the moment. And I think a lot of them won't go ahead. I think the house stock in Woodburn needs, if we can get those houses that have been done left there for, you know, to be used, I think it's very important. I'd like to note that the houses on Richmond Street that are to be demolished, there's no reason why we can't also push and go a bit further to ask for those houses not to be demolished but be relocated. There's land in Woodburn that people are moving houses to from Queensland. There's one that I know of that's happened since the floods. Why would you move a house from Queensland when you can pick up a perfectly good one 100 metres down the road and shift it? And I know some of those houses there are ready to shift. They've been lifted before. They already have steel beams under them. Very easy houses to relocate. There's housing stock there that can be relocated in a short period of time, if they want to do it. So I think we need to push for that as well, as everything else that's in the report. The rollout of the Reconstruction Authority's work down there has been very slow, and there's not much has happened. It's 5 years, so I think this report will go a long way, and the letter writing. So yeah, let's move on with it. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish is your seconder? No? Any other speakers? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, whilst I understand the emotion and the thought behind this report, as an individual I'm having trouble with recommendation 3. 1 and 2 I don't have any problem with, and the sentiment I support, but being asked to write to the Minister and ask that houses which are not named, properties which are not named, the reasons why they were acquired are not outlined, to write and ask for a blanket ability to make them continue to be available for productive residential use troubles me. The whole idea originally of buybacks was to make sure that in the future these properties were safe. In other words, people couldn't put themselves at harm. I don't know whether that's been done. I don't know the reasoning. It's not in the report, and I don't feel comfortable just agreeing to a blanket. Those houses that were purchased back should be made available for future residential use. So I'm uncomfortable with the wording, not the sentiment. So I can't support the recommendation 3 as it's written.
Could I ask
Councillor
for
Humphries?
clarification following that? Would that not be included in your letter? Like, wouldn't there be a database with all of that information from RA, given that WAGs and Council is in consultation with RA?
Mr General Manager.
The information is available, but obviously RA had those details, and due to privacy, they're not in a position to discuss the specifics of each individual case. Look, we've had 3 meetings. I've had 3 meetings with the Woodburn Action Group over the last couple of months. The second last one and the one we had about 2 weeks ago were attended by RA as well. Daniel and Michael were there, and others from Woodburn. And so in those meetings, RA are unable to talk about a specific case. They're able to talk about, that there are some that were exceptional in individual circumstances. There are others that were deemed high risk flood zones. So that's, I suppose, the challenge is that I'm not in a position to be able to include a map in this report that tells you here are the exceptional circumstances, houses, here are the ones that were deemed high flood risk. And so this report was generated following our engagement with the Woodburn Action Group and input from Reconstruction Authority. They obviously haven't, told us to go down this path, but obviously in my role, and obviously our key role as advocates for our community, have worked with the Woodburn Action Group. They've provided us with information and details of what they are seeing on the ground. So we have the Woodburn Action Group's view of where these houses are. We've got photos and images. But ultimately, I'm not in a position to put in a public report the specifics of where these individual houses are, because some of them are owned by RA, some of them are exchanged but not settled, some of them are still have a buyback on offer. So people have different periods of time of which they have to engage with this program, which is, I suppose, reflective of Councillor Hayes' frustration about how long this takes, which is, shared by the Woodburn Action Group. So I suppose I've tried to word it in that, with the inclusion where, I suppose, the third last line where I've made it clear that it's not at high flood risk, because that's, a key issue. around safety. So I suppose that's what I can provide. I'm in your hands as far as whether there's an alternate way to word that recommendation, if that's what you want to do.
You going to ask a question, or you've
Yeah,
spoken?
I'm going to make
Yep.
a comment. Those properties that have been bought back under exceptional circumstances failed in the first round to be bought back because they were considered safe to leave there. So nothing's changed. Those houses were safe, and they only applied to have them bought back because of exceptional medical grounds, whatever. The house itself, they did qualify for the buybacks first up, so they were deemed to be safe as the one next door and around the corner. So there's no reason, and I know what John's saying, but there's got to be a blanket over them to say that they were safe at some period in time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to apply for exceptional circumstances to be able to get a buyback.
Councillor, you need to more or less put that into a question form, otherwise you'll be closing the debate because you opened the debate.
I just won't stop, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
I could talk about this all night.
Yeah, I know you could, and you'll have a right when you close the meeting.
Okay, I'll stop.
Yep. Any other speakers, questions?
Mr Mayor, if I could just follow that. I know I'm not supposed to, but I respect the General Manager's position, I respect the privacy, but to actually ask me to therefore endorse writing the Minister to make these properties available for future residential use is unfair without that data, and maybe there's a better way for it to happen. Maybe the Mayor writes a letter on his behalf, on behalf of Council, without it being, put to us, but I simply can't. My conscience says I would be voting for something that I don't know about, that in the future may well bring a property that is unsafe into residential use again, and that would put something at risk. And I think that is not possible for me to do, even though I have no doubt, no objection to the sympathy behind it. So that's my position.
Okay. Any other speakers? I'm a little bit the other way. I'm pleased that both the speakers tonight didn't go down the line of the high flood risk, that they accept that that's not going to happen because there's no way in the world I could support that. But under the individual and exceptional circumstances policy, I can support that. I believe if we go down that line and there is a bit of give by NEMA and RA, at the time of those houses, that would be fully assessed to see if they were at high flood risk. And I'll be supporting the recommendation. I think when I sit here and read page 15 of the social and economic impacts of a small community, they've been through a lot, as has other areas, but I think we need to really push for this to occur. And as I said, we need to get some positive outcomes for all our communities in the Richmond Valley. And hopefully this comes to fruition either way, because that town is at a bit of limbo. And we need to get some answers, and to get some answers quickly. I have a bit of concern. The General Manager says there's some pending. I think if a person has got, if they're aged or has mental health or any other invalid, if they've had an offer, that should not be taken away from them. The RA should still buy that land and then sell it to someone else, because that would be so unfair to those people if they've had an offer and then it's withdrawn. So I'll be supporting the recommendation, but it has got a long way to go. But if we don't join together, nothing will be achieved. So it's got my support. Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes, now you have your right to reply.
Yeah, I'll close now. So, look, I'm going to fully support this recommendation tonight. I think that the exceptional circumstances policy is where we've got to push to make sure that we do get those houses back on the market at some point in time. And I'd really like to see that in this process somewhere we can suggest to them that those houses in Richmond Street, the better ones of them, can see if they can be relocated and put in a safe position to be reused. I just can't see the point in wasting good houses. So, thank you.
Thank you. That closes the debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Walker against. Thank you. Page 18, 15.1. 2026 Stormwater Drainage Service Review. Councillor Cornish.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
And I'll second.
I'd just like to
Sorry.
amend the recommendation if possible.
Yep.
In particular, dot point 4, amend it to read, resolves to further engage with IPART in relation to a possible special rate variation, including financial implications relating to Richmond Valley Council ratepayers and the council.
Could you say that again, please? A bit slower.
Resolve to further engage with IPART in relation to a possible special rate variation.
Just pause there for a sec. In relation to a possible special variation, yeah. Then, so after variation?
Including financial implications relating to Richmond Valley ratepayers and council. Yep. Yep.
Tell me when she's ready. Is that right?
Yep.
See there? That's it, Councillor Cornish.
Yep.
Can I get a seconder, please?
I'll second that, and apologies, Councillor Cornish.
Councillor Humphries. Councillor Cornish.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to take the report as written. It was purely just an amendment in relation to, I guess, a contradiction or a perceived contradiction of the recommendation and the body of the report. Just obviously relating to the body of the report indicates that an SRV is a possibility and it doesn't necessarily lock us into a variation, whereas I just feel there's a bit of confusion with the actual recommendation itself. So.
Councillor Humphries.
No, thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'm glad that amendment was moved, even though I'm not necessarily sure of the wording of it, but I have a problem with recommendations 4 and 5 as well. The way it's written, we commence the process to apply to APART, and that's being done without us as councillors having any knowledge of what that special rate variation may be, what level it will be, how it will affect itself, and I think it ought to be back here with some meat around the bone before we actually commence the process, because I'm not sure we'll necessarily agree with what is in it. And that leads to 5, which says a report to be brought back, and it merely says with information on the financial options and outcomes for a special rate variation. And the consultation process doesn't say it brings back options, doesn't say it comes back with areas for us to debate. It's like it's a fait accompli, and I think the way this is written, it is a fait accompli. I think the staff would move forward by working with IPART, coming up with a final proposition before it comes back, and then we'll be stymied. So I can't support it as written. I struggle with the amendment, but I would support it in the option, because I can't support going forward with an application to IPART without any knowledge of the concept or the detail.
That's a report back to council in September based on the financial option. Mr General Manager, would you like to make a comment? There has to be a report brought back.
The aim, well, and maybe the wording might be, the aim of 5 is to do, I'm pretty sure what Councillor Walker is seeking. It talks about financial options. So it would come back with a report that says, taking into account the outcomes of the service review, the challenge that we face, you have options. The options are we stay with the levy as is, we'll have the levy at X level, or we have the levy at Y level, and what that percentage increase would be. And so that's the intent of 5 in that recommendation, so that you can decide or give us further feedback on the levels at which that special variation would need to increase the stormwater levy by to generate the revenue stream that we are seeking, which we have talked about, which is the half $500,000 that was in our budget last year and again in the budget this year. And we'd like to have that or more in the budget for future years so that we can catch up on our stormwater management challenges. So that's the intent of what we would bring back. So open to if there's a better way to make that clearer so that we can make sure that information's available to you before we then move into an engagement process. So that's the idea, is bring a report back to September. We then can, subject to decisions, commence an engagement process. The key timelines for IPART are to notify an intent to apply by a date late in November. Simply a letter that says we're looking at doing special variation for stormwater services, and and then we move into the application process, which is your evidence piece, and that is due in February. So there's still quite a bit of work and time and effort to go into this, but obviously, the key point is that the aim is to get a decision from you as a council in September to move forward in that direction, with some input into what those scenarios and the cost implications may be. Obviously to get an indication that you have an appetite, because if you don't, we don't want to waste our resources or the community's time with the consultation process.
Can I move a foreshadowed amendment, Mr Mayor? That is items 1, 2 and 3 as printed. Remove items 4 and 5 in their entirety. And item 4 be that the General Manager bring back to the Council in September a full report on the options available for pursuing a special rate variation.
Can you need to go a bit slow.
A full report. A full report on options. Sorry, what was the last one, Councillor Walker? Full report on options for a special variation. For a special variation.
Yeah, I think it needs to be simple, because in 3 we've endorsed the transition, so we've supported the process, and we now just await a report on what the options may be going forward. So I think it's as simple as it can be is fine by me. It's a foreshadowed amendment.
Do you agree with that, or do you want to still stick with yours, or?
Yeah, no, that's all good.
Sorry?
That's good. Yes.
You still stick with
I'm happy.
yours?
No, I'm happy.
You're happy with the new one?
Yes.
So you'll withdraw your motion?
Yes.
With your permission from your seconder, Councillor Humphreys, withdraw that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I will.
That's withdrawn then. That will now become the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor, nothing I've said diminishes the importance I place on this matter. I think that stormwater drainage is a critical issue for us. We have addressed it in previous budgets. I will support a means of going forward to get more money to achieve an outcome in line with it. I just think this is a better process to do it. We have got time, as the General Manager has outlined, before we need to go to IPART, so it'd be good to have us all agreeing on what we need to do with a special rate variation, what level it will be, how we might communicate that to our ratepayers. So I commend the motion.
Councillor Humphrey.
And thanks very much. The reason I hesitated was that I did agree with, as you know, with Councillor Cornish's amendment, but I also feel like the report actually states everything that we've spoken about, everything about it has various fee scenarios and the long-term financial plan. So I think that was all in the report, but it just, I'm noting that not succinctly enough for Councillor Walker. I am supporting the foreshadowed amendment, or that's become the motion, but I 6 of one, half of a dozen of the other. I still think that all the information was in the report, heading in the same direction. We will still have thorough community consultation, and we will have various fee increase scenarios in the next report to Council.
Any other speakers? Councillors, when I read it, I still believe that 4 and 5 had the same intent. It doesn't say we actually do apply, it's just we commence a process, which we have to go through the community consultation. And 5 says that a report will be back into the council in September with information of financial options. I'm happy to me it's still the same outcome. But I want to speak, what I came tonight to do is, if you read the executive summary, the 2026 Stormwater Drainage Service Review provides a comprehensive assessment of council stormwater drainage network, service delivery arrangements, asset condition, operational performance and funding sustainability. Council stormwater network encompasses approximately 82.5 kilometres of stormwater conduits, 2,750 pits and 695 head walls, with an estimated replacement of cost of 78 million. And you go over to page 23 and you see there all the supporting documents. I just want to comment on how much work's gone to this report. It's a very, very in-depth and, as it says, comprehensive assessment. So, Mr. General Manager, I'd like you to thank all the staff involved in this. I think it's been a big job, and we all know as soon as it rains, the complaints come in about stormwater. So we need to address the situation, and I believe this motion or the recommendation would have done that. So I'll be supporting the motion. And you'll make sure that those thank yous are passed on, please. Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Walker, write a reply. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. (15.2). It's a night for changing recommendations. I'd like to add a point 5 on page 25, which reads, rights to the New South Wales Premier, relevant ministers and Destination New South Wales to thank them for their $20,000 marketing support and to highlight the casino truck show's significant economic benefits to the New South Wales economy and seeks increased funding support to grow the event further in 2027. I'll move that if I can get a seconder, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
In a nutshell, Council, it's just to try to get some increased funding. Thank them for the money they sent us, and it's up there, isn't it? Yep. Councillors, anyone who went to the truck show would have seen how this event has grown over the last few years. The amount of money it generates, the people, the Friday night light up, it's just a wonderful event for not only the Richmond Valley but for the whole region. I've spoke to people where there's accommodation, Kyogle, Ballina, Grafton, and in between Lismore naturally, because they couldn't get accommodation here. The showground had 300 plus campers, so it's bringing the money not only from interstate and every state, but from overseas visitors. And if you turn to page 28, visitor outcomes, if you get a 96% respondents rate of their experiences are good to excellent, you're doing something right, because that's very, very rare to get a 96% like that. But I could speak all night about it. And if you go to page 30, volunteer sponsor and industry support, the success of the 2026 Casino Truck Show would not have been possible without the dedication and commitment of volunteer organising committee, event sponsors, trucking operators, exhibitors, community organisations and council staff. And that's so true. They have meetings, that committee, they're all volunteers, and it's really nothing in it for them, only the joy and the passion of their industry and the trucks. And it does mention council staff. There's a lot of staff who are involved in it, outdoor, indoor staff. But I'd like to make a special mention of our council's events team. They do a fantastic job and they work tirelessly to help deliver this event. And Mr. General Manager, I can't say enough of appreciation for that events team. I'd just like to pass on that to councils. Thank you. I think they work hard. They move out of here across the road for the week before, and it's just total truck show. So if you haven't been there, it's really worth looking at. And I've never owned a truck. I've had a ute, but it's just unbelievable. And I think we're very lucky and, well, maybe not lucky, well organised and fortunate to have such an event in our area. Any other speakers? Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor, as an operator of hospitality within casino, we operate 3 venues in the town, and therefore can see firsthand the effect that this show has on business. It was truly outstanding. I think the event was truly outstanding. I back everything you've said. But as a business, we had record turnovers on the Friday night, and Friday night was outstanding, an outstanding addition to the previous year, where it really surprised all of us, I think, how successful it was. We had record turnovers on Friday night. We had record turnover on Saturday at both establishments within the CBD. The club itself had its biggest day in history for food, which is saying something. And the Royal had turnover which we hadn't seen before. I make the statement, it is bigger than Beef Week. It is bigger than Beef Week by a fair margin now. Beef Week, of course, has events aligned to it, which are a different proposition, but the actual in-street visitation from people is outstanding. Hospitality is one thing, accommodation We run 2 motels. They were both, of course, full. And all in all, from a business perspective, it was seamless. The closure of roads, they closed our roads, but it didn't affect the intent. Everyone was prepared. Communication from the staff was well done. We all knew what was coming, and we all adjusted ourselves. Just so it doesn't all sound positive, like the council, it costs a lot to actually stage our hospitality as well. So whilst turnover's high, our costs are also high. So the bottom line mightn't be as good as it might appear, but we would happily wear that for the benefit that was there. We take records, obviously, when signing people into our clubs of where they come from, as you do. So we have good data of where people came from into the clubs. And I can acknowledge they came from every state of Australia, a fair contingent from New Zealand and a few from overseas as well. I'd suggest it was probably 50-50 in terms of local people against visitors, because a lot of locals were certainly on the street. I think so that's my statement of full support. The only issue with the report I think I wanted to pick up on was the effect on the budget. That was in there, where the general manager, whoever wrote the report, was a bit cagey, saying there was a nil effect on the budget. I can't believe that, because if it was about 300, you either made less than 300 on all the outcomes or more than 300. So it can't be exactly $300,000. So if it's a surplus, I'm pleased. And there was certainly a hell of a queue at the merchandising stalls. But not for necessarily public consumption, but I would be interested just in the real accounting of what it was. Whatever it is, doesn't worry me. It was perfect for the town and great for the Richmond Valley. So congratulations also, Mr. Bear, to everybody that was involved, and the volunteers particularly. I think, I shouldn't probably say this publicly, but I think they showed up the Beef Week committee. Because I think Beef Week is in need of a revamp, a bit of re-energisation, and it could benefit from some of the innovative ways that people go about truck show.
Councillor Hayes?
Just a quick one. I know the manager of the Rod and Reel Hotel had rooms booked out for people at the truck show all weekend, who was solidly booked, and there was campers at the Broadwater Caravan Park that come to go to the truck show, so it spreads out.
My little bit of information pales into insignificance, having heard from Councillor Walker and Councillor Hayes, but I snuck away and went to a soccer match on the Saturday morning at South Lismore and the Sunday morning at Dunoon, and all the talk was about the truck show, the casino truck show. So I got a real buzz out of that.
Any other speakers? Mr. General Manager, it says in here somewhere, and I cannot find it, it's about the amount of money that was spent in the area, but we're still waiting for some returns from a bank or credit cards or something like that?
Yeah, so we subscribe to CBA data, so it's Commonwealth Bank data. So they obviously, our banks get data through all credit and debit card transactions. They use that information, and with assumptions and other data analysis, they're able to then extrapolate that across the spend to come up with a spend figure across an area for those events. So we will get that data in the coming weeks. So at this point, we have made that data estimate based on the information that we received back through the surveys and what we understand, to get that initial estimate of, I think I've been quoting it at somewhere between 5 and 13 million. We will get a stronger, clearer indication of what that number is through, I suppose, a more definite economic means than what we've currently put in this report. And so I suppose just to, this report was done very quickly. Obviously the team were busy with the truck show, hence we don't have the full accounts, but I'll be happy to sort of give that as a breakdown. as to, you know, but the indication is it costs us about 300 with all the costs that we incur, but we bring that back in through sponsors, registration funds, merchandise sales. It's, you know, we're running it as a break-even enterprise. If we get some additional funds, we'll obviously keep those in reserve for the following year to build up. It's the same with the funds. You know, the funds that were raised for charity, $59,000. So we're currently sort of considering how we manage that, and so that we make sure that it goes to good local charities.
Any other speakers? I was just going to touch on that in my closing comment. If there's nothing else, it was the charity auction. It was good to see there was not only 2 or 3 items this year, was a few smaller ones, but they made in the thousands too. So I think the top price was $19,000 for the motor and table.
I think the motor went, I think it was 23,000.
Did it go that high? I thought it was 19.
It was in the 20s.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Anyway, it was.
Okay. Anyway, it's
it
still
was
good
more
money,
than
and the other ones were around 16, I think.
Yeah.
So, what else? The Thursday night industry sponsors function, that was at the Royal, and that was well done and well attended. I think it was one of our best sponsors functions we've had. Catering was very good, and service was excellent. So it was a great night out. A few councillors went to that. I have a lot of people saying to me about Beef Week and comparing them. To me, they're 2 different events. And I believe this year's Beef Week was a very good one, so I don't compare them. They're both great for our community and our area, our region, and they promote and highlight 2 different industries. So I'm pleased that our community has both of them. There'd be a lot more areas that would love to have them, so it's great. Once again, Mr General Manager, could you pass that thank you on to our events team, please?
Just a comment just on our events team, just as a thought, is that Tian Stenner, who is now leading our events team, is actually a Yes recruit of, might be 10 years ago nearly. So, you know, she's come through as a trainee. No, actually, not 10 years, no, actually. No, it's come to me. She started an events role at the start of 2020. What happened in 2020? COVID. So she didn't run an event for the first 12 months. So no, yeah, Tian joined us in 2020 and has obviously gone through a traineeship, worked her way through, and is now leading our events team, and she's in control, if anyone has seen her in action. So I think, yeah, we all should be proud of her achievement, because we've all supported her in that in many ways. So it's good to see that happening as well. But I'll pass on thanks not only to Tian, because there is a broader team that are involved, and Stacey's done a great job taking on the events portfolio over the last 12 months. So yeah, credit to and Eliza, who has joined us over the last 4 or 5 months. So they've done a good job as a team, but then there's a big team sitting behind.
So close the debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We go to page 33, 16.1. Councillor Walker, did you call that?
Mr Mayor, I inadvertently called it. I apologise. I'll move the recommendation.
I'll second.
Second you. Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Walker?
No, Mr Mayor, it was a mistake.
Second.
No, thanks.
I just want to say a couple of words, and it's full of thank yous tonight. But if you go to page 34, this has been a long time in the making report. It's a very, very important and in-depth. There's been consultants and you'll see there in about the third paragraph, during the preparation of the flood risk management study, the plan, council and its consultants have been guided by, and then you have a list of organisations and government departments and committees that have been involved. But I'd just like, Mr General Manager, if you could write a letter to the four community representatives, just thanking them for their input. They were volunteers. I think that'd be a nice touch. And to our two councillors, Councillor Hayes and Councillor Humphreys, thanks for your input and dedication on that. It's been, what, mostly a year or so now, I'm not sure, so thank you for that. It's much appreciated.
If I could just make a small comment, because
Yep.
it's a comprehensive report. I must say that Councillor Hayes, with his experience and his local knowledge, had a great deal of really important input and questions to ask, and that made for good decision making as well. Our Richmond Valley Council team were fabulous, weren't they? They were quite brilliant, as was Mel from BMT. But to support the information in the report about the community consultation, that process, I think that the design and the process really hit the mark, and the community consultation, the comments from the community really made a difference coming through to the committee. And even in our report tonight, we're reinforcing community comments like we need for continued improvements in preparedness, communication and community awareness. There's the opportunity to improve community resilience through additional stream gauges and enhanced telecommunications, including satellite phones, improve community education and awareness, and continued enhancement of our council's disaster dashboard. And it also goes on that we need to reinforce the importance of regularly reviewing flood studies as updated climate science policy and planning guidance become available. So I'm sure that the community, many of the community were already invested in the process, but the information that was coming through really gave the whole project credibility. It was quite wonderful to be involved in.
Councillor Hayes.
Just a quick comment. I did hit on the link and I've read the DCP, include the stuff to go in the DCP. Is there somewhere in there where we can drive home the point that people that are starting to develop on flood-prone, on the floodplain, on flood-prone land, that the first thing they do is do a flood information inquiry with council? The very first thing, it needs to be said that they need to do that up front. It just it answers a lot of questions and stops a lot of misinterpretation of what's in there, because it's a summary basically. I think that needs to be put somewhere, so when you go in there, it comes up and says you should be, they cost you what, $60 or something to get them done. They're well worth every bit of it. Yeah.
And we can emphasise.
Is that possible?
Yeah, well, we can certainly emphasise it with our development concierge as well, which many people, it's their first point of contact when they're considering a development, is to make sure that, and I'm sure it's part of the information that we provide. So we will have a chat with Mel, development concierge, and just make sure that is highlighted up front and strongly emphasised as something that they should do.
Any other speakers? Mr General Manager, I did fail to also say I know how the responsible officer of the report is Mr McAteer, and I went to a few meetings. He's very passionate about this. Could you pass also our appreciation onto him and the team that was around him and done the work, because, as I said, it's a great report, much needed for our community, and it's been a lot of work gone into it over the time. Other speakers? Councillor Walker, right a reply? Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. I believe our next item is 17.1, and that is the draft Richmond Valley Cemetery Strategy. And Councillor Walker, you call that?
I will move the recommendation, Mr Mayor. I have a question to ask if I get a second.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor, I note in the report under the section of consultation on page 43 that consultation was undertaken by our consultants, which included discussions with relevant council staff, a review of existing operations and consideration of current trends. The cemeteries are very emotional matters in the community. There are lots of people obviously are connected in many ways, and it's probably the one thing I get most commenting on about from ratepayers about happenings of the cemeteries and involvement of the cemeteries. And I wondered why in consultation we hadn't engaged the community in the preparation of the strategy, rather than what we've done is complete a strategy talking to ourselves. And I might add, I think there are 3 reports tonight where consultation was with internal staff rather than external bodies. Why we didn't talk to some people who were involved in cemeteries to build our strategy rather than drafting it and then just putting it out for public exhibition.
Mr General Manager, could you answer that, please?
No, I'm happy to comment. I was just checking with
Well,
Director Zeller.
just my experience over local government, councils put a lot of strategies and that out, and then we go to the public on heaps, many things. So
I mean, that's the dilemma you have, because if you go out with a blank sheet of paper, and often that's a difficult conversation to have and difficult to engage the community, whereas in this case we're actually putting it out to them to say, here's what we believe is a strategy that's obviously well informed from the people who run the business. We've obviously had an external consultant assist us with that. So we are putting it out for an exhibition period so that people can have a read. They can consider the detailed information that is provided about where we're at, what supply we've got, how much these important facilities do cost us to both maintain, now, but we're obviously maintaining burials that were done 100 or more years ago. And so, the funding model's highlighted, and again, it's another one of those challenges in local government that we don't cover our costs, so our choice is we either reduce our levels of service or we find another way to generate some revenue. At the moment it's estimated at a subsidy from the general revenue of about 75,000. So again, we'll put that out and see what sort of feedback we get. We'll also do, as part of that process and before we bring a report back to you with the outcomes of that consultation, we'll do some benchmarking around what it costs to provide that service in other areas, whether in our region or beyond. That's, I suppose, a response. We do a lot of consultation in local government, and you can end up with consultation fatigue. We've consulted on the floodplain stuff. We've recently consulted on the casino CBD master plan. So again, I suppose it's not that we're not consulting, we're just choosing to do it in a different way, and we look forward to getting feedback, both from councillors, but those in the community who obviously value the important facility cemeteries provide.
And your question? Director Zeller.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I understand as part of the consultation that the independent consultants actually went to funeral homes as well. So I guess one step removed directly from what people think they had probably the next best view of the industry, and that's where a lot of the data came from around alternative methods to burial, like the increased trends in cremation and memorials and things like that. So yes, concede that it probably wasn't direct consultation with the public, but I guess the next best thing as far as the companies that deal with the people. So that would be my comment there.
And your question? The seconder, or did you want to speak to it?
Mr. Mayor, I understand we don't consult on everything, and I mean, we did on the floodplain. I remember sitting down a few weeks ago at Coracide with crayons and paper, consulting on the playground down there. I mean, we are a very consultative council. I accept that, but the question was really about, cemeteries are very emotional. I hear Director Zeller talk about going to funeral homes, but when you bury somebody, that connection lasts for a long time afterwards. It's maintenance. It's the way we put them in the ground, the way we put headstones in. All of those things are really important. So I don't want to make a big deal of it, but I just really thought it was something that, when you consult on the way through, you get a much better result than just putting a strategy out and getting comment on it. So that was a rationale. And if I could just comment on what the General Manager said, there is another option, Mr. General Manager. Not everything has to pay its way, and another option is to keep subsidising the cemeteries.
Who was the seconder for that? Councillor Humphries, did you want to speak?
No, thank you.
Personally, I get especially around Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, and I know council staff present them at that time very well. The only time I ever maybe have a complaint is when it's too wet to mow, and the amount of work to mow, you do more damage and it takes a long time, but mostly I get really good feedback of our cemeteries. There are things out there that need to be improved, but that would cost a lot of money, like sealing some of the roads. But if we subsidise now, how far do you go to achieve those subsidies? And just remember, it's not only one cemetery, there are four, I think. So, yeah, it could cost a lot of money to keep doing that, but I look forward to the public comment, which will have their opportunity, and then that'll come back to council for further debate. Any other speakers? Councillor Walker, write a reply. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. And I believe there is one more, 18.2. Councillor Walker, did you call that?
I'll again move that motion, Mr. Mayor, but I have a question.
On page 52.
Page 52.
And a second?
Second.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question of, I think it's Acting Director Martin tonight. Normally these reports are stellar in their presentation. This month we have a return of 3.49%, which is below our own benchmark of 4.67. I wondered if Mrs. Martin might explain why we had an unusually lower month compared to our usually high standard.
Acting Director Martin.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Walker, we are largely influenced by the economy in terms of how our investments do perform over the month. We've got a quite significant portion in our medium and long-term growth funds, which are prone to fluctuations due to economic factors in the economy. So it is, I guess, 1 month's performance, and last year we did see quite significant returns in those funds. So yeah, we are just prone to economic conditions, unfortunately.
I'll move the motion, Mr. Mayor. I'm presuming then we didn't do anything different. We just were susceptible to market moves.
You had moved it, and it was seconded by Councillor Humphries.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
No, he was making a comment.
Oh, okay. I thought he said he moved.
About movement.
Oh, I thought you said you moved. Sorry.
Well, sorry, I suppose just to extend that, which I will hopefully clarify that for Councillor Walker, is that on page 53, under the investment holding where it says medium-term growth fund, long-term growth fund, so they are T-Corp specific products which we started investing in 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. Those are growth funds which over an extended period of time are performing far better than our other funds going to term deposits. But obviously with what's happening in the world, obviously influenced by the escalation of the Iran war, which we all know fluctuates and the impacts fluctuate, that has impacted those investments, of which we have nearly 20 million in, and for July, those two have had a fair value loss of 22,000, whereas through last year, where we had a really good year, they were bringing in, you know, the larger returns. So, as our acting director has said, it's a month. The important thing is we'll monitor this. They are a long-term product, so we're obviously encouraged to stay in them for the long term, and we have been benefiting. So they're the two which have the most influence on our monthly performance of our investment products.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important that we publicly explain our performance.
I also thinks, and it wasn't in the reports years ago, and there was a certain gentleman trying to claim that we'd lost a lot of money, and I believe that in every report now, however, it should be noted that despite the variation in returns, there has been no impact on the principal sum originally invested by council, and there is still a positive. As a report says, every month they will fluctuate. Anyone who has a superannuation and checks it monthly, they will know that their superannuation goes up and comes down and goes up. And the economic climate worldwide, with some political decisions being made and threats from one country, one president, it's a pretty rough ride out there in the financial sector. Councillor Walker, write a reply. Put that motion in. Carried. Page 56, matters for information. Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Cornish and a seconder.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey. Has any Councillor Walker, do you have any items in?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor? No. Anyone have any items in matters for information?
Yeah, I do. We're up to
Councillor Hayes.
page 60.
Page 60?
Yeah, the projects. Page 60, the Woodburn Pony and Tennis Club. Timeframes. Looks, we've got to have that thing up and done by the 31st of March next year. How are we travelling?
I'll let Director Zella respond to that one. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At this point in time, you'll recall that we brought a tender back to council for that building structure, which we elected to reject all tenderers and go back to negotiation due to budget constraints. In the meantime, as you noted, we've had that funding deed extended from 30 June 2026 through to 31 March 2027. So we've gone back to those three respondents to that tender to see what negotiation we could do to deliver something that's pretty close to the original scope, to try and bring that budget back into something more manageable. Those negotiations have caused us to bring another couple of builders into the mix to try and see whether they can bring us a result. We received the last of those prices back last Friday, so the team are just pouring through the detail of that to see if that is a way forward for us. It's very clear that that budget listed there won't cut the delivery of that that project, but I think. Well, I know we've flagged that previously, that there will have to be some decisions made around moving some budgets to complete that project. So next steps are to get the flood mound built. which the conditions look like they're just drying up enough now that we can start that part of it, and then engaging a builder and getting on with it. We're still bullish about the 31st of December, but I am taking some comfort out of the fact that it's actually 31 March from a funding deadline perspective.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it's got to be done by the 31st of March, no matter what, we lose the funding.
We are absolutely aiming for 31 December to give us that comfort, but it's nice to know that there's a little buffer there at the other end.
Okay, thank you. Next one's Air Force Beach access, the car park upgrade. It talks about updated plans there for security and stuff. Do we get to see them before they're put in place?
Mr. General Manager?
Yeah, because we need to, I've asked the team just given the time, because you have actually approved we had actually engaged a contractor for that job, but just to review the scope and to make sure that if with the funding that's available, we get it built, but we also provision for things like lighting, CCTV, as far as making sure we put conduits in the ground, and we'll bring a report back to you to show you what we're going to deliver with the funding we've got, but then also what we're provisioning for that can be add-ons, including a gate, lighting, CCTV, which could potentially have number plate recognition on it. So and the intent is to bring an info report back to you at a briefing so that you can review what's going to be on the ground, but also it'll feed into potential future funding bids if we don't have enough cash to deliver.
Yeah, the last information on that project was there was talk about a gate at the entrance to the car park as well as one at the on-ramp and off-ramp to the beach. So, if we can't afford to put them in, we're going to put infrastructure in the ground to be able to do that at a later date if needed. Is that...
What we'll do is bring back a plan that identifies how we think is the best way to manage that so that we can, I think the next step is to control access so that you can't get on the beach at night.
Yeah.
That's obviously where we're getting most recently most of the feedback. So if we can get a control, but if we bring a design plan back of what we're going to deliver and what those elements are, we can do that. I think potentially do that when we have a briefing in September.
I've seen some provisional costings for the elements that we've just talked about, and I'm comfortable that we'll still slide that in under the original budget. So we've heard back from the original contractor that we let the tender to. Obviously that price has increased given it was around 12 months ago that we approved that tender, but we're still pretty good for budget on that project, including the elements we've just talked about.
And just one more, you talk about the Woodburn Evans Head shared pathway. It says here, detailed design and geotechnical investigation for the pedestrian bridge. Whereabouts is that? Excuse me.
That's a really good question. I don't know.
It just that paragraph hasn't come out of the suspension bridge.
No, it is. There is a bridge. I'm just seeing that our manager of asset delivery is having a chat with the general manager. We'll get you an answer about where that bridge is.
Mr. General Manager.
What's the street that goes down to the soccer field? Is it Wagner? So when you're leaving Woodburn and you go around that sweeping left-hander, if you notice where the path, I've wondered this myself. So the path sort of stops just before if it's Wagner Street, but on the other side it's quite a dip. It's a pedestrian bridge or a bridge across that low point. So that's what that's for. That's why that section hasn't been done, obviously.
And just to be clear, it's called a pedestrian bridge. We can still ride bikes and wheelchairs and...
Yep. Well, it's principally a cycleway, so it probably should be a cycle bridge.
Well, it says pedestrian. All right, thank you.
Any other speakers? Any items? Right, we'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Carried. Now go on to page 81. Questions on notice. There was nil. Questions for the next meeting in writing. Has anyone got a question for the next meeting in writing? There are no matters referred to closed council. So that concludes the meeting. Thank you to the gallery, online viewers, staff and councillors for your attendance. Everyone have a safe trip home, and I will now close the meeting. Thank you for your attendance.